Here again is our diagram. In the last clip, we saw how to register the service with the Angular injector. Now we just need to define it as a dependency, so the injector will provide the instance in the classes that need it. So, how do we do dependency injection in Angular? Well, the better question is, how do we do dependency injection in TypeScript? The answer is, in the constructor. Every class has a constructor that is executed when an instance of the class is created. If there is no explicit constructor defined for the class, an implicit constructor is used. So far, we have not needed an explicit class constructor, but if we want to inject dependencies, such as an instance of a service, we need an explicit constructor. In TypeScript, a constructor is defined with a constructor function. What type of code normally goes into the constructor function? As little as possible. Since the constructor function is executed when the component is created, it is primarily used for initialization and not for code that has side effects or takes time to execute. We identify our dependencies by specifying them as parameters to the constructor function, like this. Here we define a private variable to hold the injected service instance. We create another variable as the constructor parameter. When this class is constructed, the Angular injector sets this parameter to the injected instance of the requested service. We then assign the injected service instance to our local variable. We can then use this variable anywhere in our class to access service properties or methods. This is such a common pattern that TypeScript defined a shorthand syntax for all of this code. We simply add the accessor keyword, such as private here, to the constructor parameter. Then this is a shortcut for declaring this variable, defining a parameter, and setting the variable to the parameter. Neat! You'll see this technique used throughout the Angular documentation and other code examples. Ready to give it a try? We want to use our service to get products in the product list component. So we'll define our product service as a dependency in the product list component. We don't have to add the providers array here because the product service is already registered in the app component, which is the parent of this component. All we need is a constructor. The constructor is normally defined after all the properties, so we'll add it here. We'll use the shorthand syntax to define the dependency, private underscore product service. We use an underscore here to denote that this is a private variable. Then, because we are using TypeScript, we type colon and the type, which is product service. Note that the accessor doesn't have to be private. This shorthand syntax works with public and protected as well. So now we have a syntax error here. I bet you know why. Yep, we need to import product service so we can use it as the data type here. Now, when an instance of the product list component is created, the Angular injector injects in the instance of the product service. We are at the point now where we can actually use the product service. First, let's delete the hard-coded products from here. We'll instead get them from the service. Now the question is, where should we put the code to call the service? One thought might be to put it in the constructor. But ultimately, our product service will go out to a back-end server to get the data. We don't want all of that executed in the constructor. Other thoughts? Remember our discussion about lifecycle hooks? Earlier in this course, we said that the onInit lifecycle hook provides a place to perform any component initialization, and it's a great place to retrieve the data for the template. Let's use the onInit lifecycle hook. We want to set the product's property to the products returned from our service. To call the service, we use our private variable containing the injected server instance, this ._product service. We then type a dot and the name of the method we want to call. Notice how IntelliSense helps us with all of this. Let's make one more little change. Let's remove the default list filter value so we'll see all of the products in the list. We should be all set to see our result in the browser. And here are our products. Yay! Notice that we have more products displayed now because I hard-coded more products into the service. Let's finish up this module with some checklists we can use as we build our services.